Perfect. Thank you so much. Hey everyone, I'm Abhay Kumar. I am the CEO of the Helium Foundation. I've been part of the Helium community since 2019 when we first launched the network. So we started the Helium network before DeepIn was a sort of a well-known name. I think it's pretty incredible to see this conference, entire conference just about DeepIn. And so I wanted to give a little bit of background about Helium, where we came from, sort of why we existed in the first place, and sort of provide some context. I know Dr. Yu gave a really great sort of introduction to DeepIn in general, so I'm not going to repeat any of those things. I'm going to just sort of focus on wireless specifically. And so, DeepIn is this incredible sort of ecosystem. There are a lot of companies out there, a lot of products out there that have sort of become a DeepIn, and I think it's important to sort of have a very high-level definition of what these things are. Typically, from my perspective, DeepIns are a physical infrastructure network that uses a token incentive to bootstrap the sort of marketplace that gets created. So on the supply side, for wireless network, this is coverage creation. That is something that it's hard to do. Like when you want to deploy coverage, you want to know that there's going to be somebody that uses it. And so the token incentive sort of provides a sort of bootstrap. And on the demand side, the tokens also provide a utility that allows folks to actually use the network. I'll give a very simple example. When I am in a city and I want to access the internet at a cafe or a coffee shop, I might have to go ask for the Wi-Fi password at that location. A permissionless network allows me to not have to ask in every single coffee shop around the town. Now, I'm a human. It's easy for me to ask for permission if I needed to. But imagine a sensor that's sort of traveling across the country, around the world. You don't want to have to ask every single tower for access. And so a single application developer can configure their device to use the Helium network and use it anywhere in the world, and pay for it, and pay for every single hotspot, maybe even with micropayments. And so that's really where Helium sort of started. We started as a Web 2 company that couldn't scale a network. And launched what's now called a DeepIn, like at the time, a token incentivized network, to sort of solve this fundamental problem, which is around sensors. And so this is sort of speaks to the traditional telco model. The traditional telco model requires a large organization to find real estate, put infrastructure on that real estate, a tower, lease out space. Usually in traditional telcos, you sort of lease out 10-foot segments for radios, provide backhaul to that site, constantly maintain it. Someone has to come and check on it and make sure that it operates. And then that same telco has to go acquire customers, do all of the billing. This is an enormous enterprise, and it's our perspective on this is that although there are incredible telcos out there, there's a complementary opportunity, an opportunity to build a complementary network here, where individuals who are sort of incentive aligned to sort of provide coverage for themselves and for their neighbors can sort of complement these larger networks and sort of provide wider coverage and more access. And that's ultimately why I work on what I work on. I want to provide more access for people and for things. And so the Helium model tries to simplify this. Helium enables any individual to put up a hotspot, either an IoT hotspot or a Wi-Fi hotspot, or in the US, a CBRS hotspot, and that's an LTE band, and allows any individual to make this very easy. And so we wanted to provide the simplified experience and to enable hundreds of thousands of people to deploy these. And in the last several years, we've on the IoT side, we've seen a tremendous growth of coverage, where anyone is sort of able to sort of deploy these kinds of hardware in their homes, in their businesses, on their roofs. And the core part of this is using a token incentive. So each one of these networks are allowed to have a token, the mobile token or an IoT token. And it allows each of these networks to provide rules and establish governance. We took a very community-oriented approach on building these networks where the community is actually able to define things like pricing or rules around who's allowed to join and then sort of leave the network, create hardware in the network. And this is something that we sort of feel very strongly about, and we created this sort of network of networks. And we look forward to seeing new networks joining the Helium ecosystem and being able to sort of live within this sort of paradigm. And so the IoT network sort of grew over the last several years, and we've sort of seen tremendous applications being built on the top of it. I want to talk about two specific ones. And Particle is an interesting platform. It's a device that allows any sensor application developer to not really have to think about their connectivity. This device supports Wi-Fi, LTE, Helium, and satellite. And typical application developers really just want to solve a problem. And when they use a device like this, the fact that they're using a particular backhaul is sort of hidden away for them. And then, real applications have been built on this network. So this is an interesting one that came up recently. This is a company in Europe that sort of wanted to create a feedback loop to create a protection for endangered species. So these are lynx that are endangered, and there are cameras that are deployed in the field. And when these cameras see one of these creatures, that information feeds back into a well-known driving app, Waze. And then drivers are able to then know that there's something that they could potentially harm in the environment. And so that's where the IoT network has really sort of shown in the last came out in the last couple of years. We've also launched a mobile network in the United States initially, and we're starting to see some pilots in Mexico as well. And over the last year or so, we've seen this network also grow in a very similar way. And it's been able to create new business models around cellular connectivity. So Helium Mobile is a company that's building a carrier. And I have a SIM on my phone that's a Helium Mobile SIM. And where there is a Helium hotspot, it will use that. And where there isn't, it'll fall back onto the T-Mobile network in the US. And so what that allows a company like Helium Mobile to do is create a sort of a new kind of business model where they're able to really attack a core problem of MVNOs. This is the fact that they're still beholden to the existing telcos, and their cost structure is very fixed. And so in this case, a Helium hotspot owner can get paid directly by Helium Mobile in order to provide because they're providing coverage, and they're today that service is available at $20 a month, which is very, very competitive. And on top of that, every one of these subscribers can also participate by validating the network. They can become nodes. And this is sort of the hope for our ecosystem, is that every single individual can run or become a node. And in this case, what they're doing is they're validating the coverage that already exists where they are. So this provides information to the network to say, here's where I need coverage, here's where I frequent, and where there's an opportunity for Helium hotspots to be deployed. And this kind of information, and it also validates the hotspots themselves that are already deployed. And so this is an important feedback loop for carriers, for hotspot deployers, and all of this happens on chain. And we've seen some pretty incredible growth over the last few months, almost 80,000 subscribers, just really in the last 6 months that have sort of signed on to this Helium Mobile service. And the national plan was just sort of recently launched, and we're hoping to see more folks becoming validators, becoming nodes on this Helium Mobile network. And we're part of the Solana ecosystem. Happen to be wearing a Solana shirt, surprisingly, today. But I just wanted to tell some other interesting applications that are being built on the Helium network. There's Demo, who you'll hear from in a little bit. There's HiveMapper. The Demo and HiveMapper devices use that Helium IoT device and that network to for their particular products. And I think these are the other sort of Web3 opportunities that companies can use. And we know of a lot of other DeepIn projects that are also looking at and already using the Helium IoT network. There's WeatherXM and a few others out there in the crowd, actually. So this is just a little overview of Helium. We're very sort of excited about these kinds of networks being built, and we'd love to work with folks in the DeepIn ecosystem in general to continue to build these networks. If you want to learn a little bit more about Helium and keep track with what we're talking about, there's the QR code on the left there, and then if you want to hear my hot takes about the ecosystem, there's the one on the right. Thank you so much.